Alright everyone, now we need to talk about John Fetterman, because inexplicably, a person who suffered a massive stroke and for several months was incapable of reading what was before him, appears to have become the voice of reason within the Democratic Party. Just another symbol of how far they have fallen, by the way. Now, I don't have any particular problem with Fetterman. I disagree with him on things like guns and shit like that, and of course, like any liberal, he wants to raise your taxes. Overall, though, generally speaking, as a rule, more sensible than the other liberals that are around him. Certainly more sensible than the far left. They've gone straight on crazy. He appears to retain some semblance of sanity, which is more than we can say for the average politician, regardless of their political party, by the way, including third parties. When the voice of reason of your party is somebody who, at least for a couple of months, was incapable of effectively speaking or understanding what was being said to him, that's probably not the greatest sign under the sun. I'm just saying, I think that there might be a little bit of a problem there. With John Fetterman, he's a little bit of an enigma. Of course, I would have voted, if I had been in Pennsylvania at the time, I would have voted for Mehmet Oz, simply because he was backed by Trump more than anything else. I was never a real hardcore fan of Mehmet Oz, though. I was sort of soft on my support for him, because it's more like, better than the alternative, but not much better, and I'm not taken in by your shtick, sort of thing. With Fetterman, though, there doesn't appear to be a shtick. He's apparently stopped giving a fuck. The dude's 6'7". He looks like Lurch. And sometimes he says some weird shit, but overall he appears to like trolling. He appears to like fucking with people. So I can kind of respect him for that, actually. I think that Fetterman is probably the best Democrat that's currently holding office. This is a problem. This is not a good thing. The fact that somebody with his particular profile is the only Democrat that apparently makes sense, I think is a little bit of an issue, actually, with the political party itself. I mean, not that it doesn't have other issues. It has 20,000 of them, but Fetterman apparently isn't one of them. He's the voice of reason of the Democratic Party. He comes out, link in the description, archived of course, and he castigates the Democratic Party and says, well, basically, you know, your problem is that you insult men all the time. You're insulting people constantly, and then you expect to win elections. He is fundamentally correct. This is why he'll be ignored, by the way. He's going to end up a pariah within the Democratic Party, the same as Joe Manchin, for occasionally having a sensible answer for the problems that the party is suffering. What I've said over and fucking over, for years and years it seems, it might be a fucking decade by now, is that I would like to have a Democratic Party that goes back to like being a party of JFK or something like that. I don't want to have to vote just for Republicans. It's not my forte. I'm not a Republican. I'm not even a conservative. But the Democratic Party has screwed the pooch so hard that it makes it impossible to actually support them on any ideological basis. Fetterman, inexplicably again, appears to be the voice of reason within the party. I find this, I mean, it's hilarious on one level. It's like, okay, somebody who literally couldn't read for a while is effectively the champion of common sense within your party. Okay, that's amusing. That's like Chaz Garden stuff. But it's also very sad, because the American people are no longer left with a political choice, effectively. The Democratic Party has gone so far off the rails with both its imbibing of far leftism and its neoliberal corruption, its corporatistic corruption, its fascistic corruption, you could say, that John Fetterman appears to be the voice of reason within the party. Yeah, that's going to go over real well. Again, making a mistake after mistake after mistake. That's basically the Democratic Party's ethos at the time. Used to be the Republicans were the ones that did this. Okay, the Republicans are handed a victory, like with abortion or something like that, and they steal defeat from the jaws of victory over and over again. And it was like, you know, it becomes maddening because you're like, how can you be so fucking stupid? Now the Democrats are doing it. John Fetterman is effectively your sensible leader. Is it Chuck Schumer? He can't lead anything. He's led around by Nancy Pelosi. Is it Pelosi? I wouldn't say so. She's on her way out. She's registering to run again. She'll probably win, but at the same time, nobody really wants her in that position. Is it Joe Biden? No, I mean, he's a dementia patient. At this point, he can't even change his own socks. It's certainly not Kamala Harris. She's disappeared since her loss. John Fetterman effectively is the leader of that one core of the Democratic Party that stands for like Union Dems. You could call them Blue Dogs or something like that if you wanted to. The left is ostensibly run by AOC. The neolibs are ostensibly run at this point by Nancy Pelosi. And John Fetterman effectively has formed his own effective mini coalition. The problem for the Democratic Party is if they ignore the pleas and the woes of this proportion of this party, people that don't want the id poll, people that don't want the far leftism, you will automatically lose the next election. I talked about this literally the other day. Ignore them at your own peril. The fact is that John Fetterman, a literal stroke victim who could not fucking speak coherently, is now effectively the head of a chunk of that party, and probably the only one that's actually sane and not completely and totally, utterly corrupt. This is a problem for the Democratic Party. It's one that they could address, and they should address, but it's one that they're unlikely to address. They don't seem to have any self-awareness. In the wake of the election, the coping that I've seen points to a Democratic Party that is fundamentally incapable of reforming itself, at least at this time. They're going to have to get thwomped again. The problem is, I have no problem with Trump. I voted for him. I think that his policies generally are sane, perfectly fine. I want to secure the border. I want tax relief, sane diplomacy, etc. No problem with Trump. But who's going to be the next Republican challenger? It could be Vance. That would be okay. I would accept that. It could be DeSantis. That's fine too. It could be a goddamn oddball, and they may end up winning and then collapsing the GOP in the process, which they would deserve as a result of that. It could be some random oddball running against the Democrats that simply can't get their shit together. That's what I'm worried about. If anything, I'm worried more about having some crazy moralistic like Tea Party or something as the next Republican president simply because the Democrats can't form a goddamn coalition. People like Fetterman are trying to make the party do soul searching and they're not listening to them. When John Fetterman is effectively the leader of a chunk of your party and he's the only one that actually makes sense, again, keeping in mind his particular health problems, that's a real big fucking problem. That's about all. Peace out.